Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the tutorial number 15 of the series Special Effects for Games, which is basically a continuation of the last tutorial where we have seen how to create a nice attack in Unity. And I'll have the link in the description for those who are interested to see how to make this effect. And today we are going to see how to make the slash effect in After Effects. I know a lot of people don't have access to After Effects, but some of you requested to do this tutorial and here it is. So let's see how we can do this. So let's go ahead and create a new composition, which we can rename to slash. The resolution can be HDTV and we can set 25 frames. And as you can see, 2 seconds should be enough. Press OK. And the first thing we want to do is press with the right click here and select New Solid. Let's rename this to slash. And the wide and the height can be 1000 by 1000. Let's set the color to white. And now let's just increase this a little bit so it fits the height. This doesn't need to be too big, because now we can select the rectangle tool, Q for shortcut. And the idea is that we make a vertical selection like this one. No problem if it isn't in the center. Now let's open the mask options in the slash and let's increase the feather to around 150. In this right panel where it says Effects and Presets, we can go ahead and search for Roughen Edges. And we can basically drag this effect to the slash solid. And as you can see, this immediately takes effect, and we want to change the edge type to spiky. As you can see, there is roughen color, there is cut, there is spiky, there is rusty, and so on. This is up to you, but the one that I really like is the spiky. I'm gonna select that and I'm gonna increase the scale, which will increase the pattern of the spiky type. And around 200 should be fine. Let's also increase the complexity to 3, you can increase more if you want. And now we want to hold Alt and press in this clock near the evolution. And as you can see down here, now we can type in an expression. And let's type in time multiplied by 360. What this will do is that it will basically animate the roughen edges effect, as you can see if you press play. But you may also notice that this is not looped, and we can loop that by turning on cycle evolution under the evolution options. And basically time multiplied by 360 will generate 1 cycle per second. And since we have 2 seconds, we basically have 2 cycles. So let's set the cycles to 2, and now as you can see, as you may notice, this is already looping, which is really great. We don't necessarily need this for this effect, but it's really easy to set up. Okay, so moving on, the next thing we want to do is search for a polar coordinates. And what this will do is that it will transform a rectangle to a polar, and a polar is basically a circle. We want the opposite, we want to convert the rectangle to a polar, just like this. And as you may notice, if you increase the interpolation, this starts to look like a slash effect. But we need a few more things. And the next thing we need is actually a linear wipe. And let's put the linear wipe on top. And we can set the wipe angle to 0. And if we increase the transition completion, we can see that it starts to cut out our solid. And let's set this linear wipe with a wipe angle of 180. Let's set the transition completion to around 60, maybe 50, it really depends on what you want. You can play with these values, of course. And now if we go down here to the transform options of our slash, we can rotate this minus 90 degrees. And now it starts to really look like a slash. But to make this look better, we can add a new linear wipe. And we can set the wipe angle to 0. And let's actually increase the feather of the linear wipe 1, and you will notice that we can see a smooth beginning. And if we go to the linear wipe 2 and increase the transition completion to 50 with a feather of 180, this is the effect we get. And it's really cool in my opinion. Now you can play with the feather and with transition completion to see what you like. We can actually decrease a little bit the edge sharpness because we want to have some grays and white in our effect. And why we want some grays and whites in our effect? Because it will help us a lot to add a nice color in this effect, which you will see in a moment. Now let's go ahead and add a glow. You can search for glow in the effects and presets. And let's increase a little bit the glow radius. Okay, this is starting to look really cool. And now the next step is to animate our mask. And we can easily do this by pressing on this clock watch near the mask path at the frame 0. And then let's go to around the frame 10. And now with the arrow we can move our points of the mask to anywhere we want. In my case I'm going to increase the wide of this mask, like this. And near the 1 second mark I'm just going to decrease this a lot to a small mask to make this disappear. And now if you press play you can see this effect, it's starting to look really great. It really looks like a slash. But we can do a couple of things, and one of those things that we can do is animated transition completion of the linear wipe tool in my case, which is the one that has the wipe angle at 0 degrees. And we can go to the frame 0, press this clock, and near the frame 10 I'm going to decrease the transition completion so we can have this very bright white. And at around the second one I'm going to set the transition to 15 again, just like this. If you increase the interpolation, this is pretty much done. And let's set this linear white with a wipe angle of 108. Trail, you can add it if you want. Basically I duplicate the slash with Ctrl D, I rename it to trail, and I'm gonna turn off the polar coordinates. And now the idea is that I make the mask a little bit smaller, so we don't see the cut in the front. And I'm also going to scale the trail to be a little bit smaller, just like this. We can also decrease a little bit the opacity. And then I basically animated the mask path again to make sure that it starts with this size, then it grows a little bit at around frame 10. And near the 1 second I'm gonna make the mask small, just like this, just like we have done with the slash. And this is just a detail, you don't necessarily need to do this, as you may know. What really matters now is that we give colors to this. And I'm going to hide the trail so I can work better. And I'm going to search for a tint and add it to the slash. And we can give color with tint by changing the white to whatever we want. In this case I'm going to use a blue, since it's going to be for the ice attack that we have seen in the beginning. We can also add some levels. And with the RGB channel selected, I'm going to try to make the whites pop up a little bit. And we want to cut the greens a little bit, in my case. This really depends on the color you have. Next thing we can add is a hue saturation, which we can increase the master saturation to around 20. And the blue saturation, in this case, to around 20 as well. And increase a little bit the blue lightness. Okay, that's great. Now we can add another glow. And if you want, you can increase a little bit the glow radius and the intensity, which will give it some really cool brighter colors. Now if you go back to the levels, we can actually in the RGB channel play with the grays, just like this, until we have this brighter blue. Okay, so after we have the tint, the levels and the saturation and the glow too, we can select them, we can press Ctrl C, and if you go to the trails now you can press Ctrl V to pass the tint, the levels, the hue and the glow. And as you can see now in the trail we have the same colors, the same setting that we made for the slash. Now that we have done our effect, we can go to File, and in Export we can select Add to Render Queue. Now in the output model, let's click in Lossless, because we want to change the format to PNG sequence, and we want to change the channels to RGB plus alpha. Because this background is black, but if you press in this button you will notice that we have been working with a transparent background. And now let's go ahead and press in the output, and you can select a place to export your PNG sequence, just press save, and then we can press render. After you have done so, you will need a software that creates a sprite sheet. You can find one in the asset store. I'm using Glueit, which you can find in Google. If you search for Glueit like this, it's probably the first link. If you don't find it, let me know. You can download the zip. And it's really easy to use. I'm just going to add all my frames that I've just exported of the /02. And then I say that I want 5 columns. I press glue it. And that's it. I only need to press save. And I'm gonna save it as /02_sprite_sheet. Then I press OK, that's it. Now if you want to know how to make this work in Unity, you can go ahead to Unity, create the particle system, name it to /, and I'm just gonna change the duration to 3, the start lifetime to be between 0.8 and 1.2, and the start lifetime here has to be pretty much the same time that we had in After Effects. In this case we had 1 second, and then we only need 1 particle for now. So let's set max particles to 1, and let's also set the emission to 0, because we want to use a burst, which will fire at the beginning, with a minimum and a maximum of 1. Let's rotate this forward, just like this. And I'm going to increase the start speed, because this is going to be really fast, and around 40 or 50 should be enough, maybe more. And I'm going to decrease the angle and the radius as well. Basically we are creating a cannon shape. And now the idea is that we turn on texture sheet animation. And let's go ahead and import our sprite sheet, but if you think this is too big, you can go ahead to your image editing software or to Photoshop. In the image we can decrease the image size to 50%, just like this. And now I'm gonna save this one with sprite sheet 50. I'm gonna import the one which has half of the original size to a folder, and I'm going to create a material which I'm going to rename to /02 and change the shader to particles additive. We can drop the sprite sheet to the texture slot and drop the material to our /particle system. And now as you can see we have the slash being emitted, but it's really small. So I'm going to increase the start size to be between 15 and 20. And now the idea is that we count how many sprites we have in X and how many we have in Y. Because in the texture sheet animation parameter, in the tiles, we have to say how many there is in X and how many there is in Y. I'm going to say 5 by 5. And if you don't see nothing happening, it's because in the frame over time we need to select this curve. And now we see the slash. I'm just going to rotate a little bit up, like this, and increase the start speed to be between 15 and 60. Yeah, something like this. It's up to you now, basically. You can do pretty much anything you want. This is the setup you need to make this work in Unity. And from now on, it's up to you. You can use the color over lifetime to make it smooth at the beginning, just like this. The keys on top control the opacity and the keys on the bottom controls the color, by the way. And now we can use the size over lifetime. I'm going to select a curve that I already made, but you can add keys with the right click. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Just one last thing which is very important and will allow you to rotate this to whatever you want, because as it is now, the slash is always facing the camera. And you may not want that, so you can go to renderer and in the billboard alignment, let's set it to local. And now we can control the orientation of our slash effect with the 3D start rotation. I'm going to set a random number between 80 and 100 in the Y, so it faces in the same direction of the shape. And that's it, you have basically done the slash effect. I think this can be really useful in a lot of effects that you may use in the future. And I hope you have enjoyed. Please subscribe for weekly game development tutorials. You can also find these and much more effects in my Patreon if you support me there. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.